new transfer student arrives clutching a photograph in her hand, and the moment she meets the person in the picture, she rushes forward to embrace him. The strange gesture from a complete stranger leaves Junxing stunned, and he instinctively pushes Lin Shi away. But the odd encounters don't end there. Lin Shi transfers into Junxing's very class, and even insists on sitting next to him, though Junxing immediately refuses, drawing gas from their classmates. The teacher still places her beside him, claiming she doesn't know her way around. Lin Shi begins following Junxing everywhere, but with her short legs, she can barely keep up, leaving her panting and breathless. Junxing even compares her to a corgi, making it clear he doesn't want her tagging along. Yet despite his annoyance, he sighs and picks up her fallen books, only for the two of them to end up punished, standing in the hallway for being late to class. Even though they had solved the assignment correctly, Lin Shi never stops chattering by Junxing's side, and even goes so far as to bounce closer and closer to him. No matter how hard Junxing tries to dodge, she loses her balance and tumbles right onto him, tearing his shirt in the process. Still, Junxing lets it slide, unwilling to argue over such things. For him, the only way he would ever consider being friends with Lin Shi is if she could pluck the stars from the sky. During break time, a commotion suddenly gathers everyone in the lobby, and Junxing is dragged there by his friend, only to find Lin Shi with a massive bunch of balloons. She begins snipping the strings one by one, letting them float chaotically to the ceiling. Afterward, she pulls Junxing into the supply room, blindfolds him, and reveals a glittering box, claiming its sparkles shine like stars in the night sky. It is clearly her way of twisting his words, but Junxing, faced with her cheeky persistence, reluctantly lets it pass. When he quips that he would only be her friend if she could steal the wig of teacher Xie, Lin Shi, knowing she lacks the skill, immediately turns to coaxing him into changing the condition. She even volunteers to clean the classroom spotless, just to win his favor. But Junxing has no intention of giving in so easily. Who would have thought that while the two were teasing and tugging at each other, Junxing accidentally pulled Lin Shi and caused a banner to fall, landing squarely on teacher Xie's head. By sheer luck, Lin Shi managed to complete Junxing's impossible mission, yet being entangled with Lin Shi only brought him more trouble, and because of the banner incident, the two were punished to stand in the lobby all afternoon, holding the banner high for everyone to see. Not long after, rumors about Junxing and Lin Shi began to spread throughout the school. When Junxing found out, he was furious and stormed into the broadcasting room to announce that there was absolutely nothing between them. Lin Shi, visibly crestfallen with eyes slightly reddened, seemed hurt at first, but within seconds she called out his name loudly and seized the microphone. Right there she revealed her circumstances to the entire school, confessing that while Junxing did not know her, she had always known him, and that she wished to stay by his side forever, doing all the things she had never done with him before. Junxing was so enraged he could hardly see straight, dashing back to the booth like a man possessed to shut off the mic before she could say more. He was ready to lash out at her, but when he saw her tears, he swallowed his anger and let it go. Still fuming, he returned home only to discover Lin Shi standing inside his very house. Lin Shi even went as far as acting close with his mother, while Junxing made it clear he did not want her in his house. Yet his mother explained that she and Lin Shi's mother were once best friends, and that she owed her a great debt, so helping Lin Shi was only natural. One day, while Junxing was in the shower, Lin Shi barged in as if nothing were out of the ordinary, startling him so badly that he ended up putting his shirt on backwards in anger. Her presence began to haunt him to the point of invading his dreams, where a terrifying version of Lin Shi relentlessly demanded to be his friend. Late at night, when Junxing went to the kitchen for a drink of water, he froze as a shadow flickered in the corner, only to find Lin Shi popping her head up from below and nearly scaring him to death. She even claimed she was showing restraint by hiding herself, leaving Junxing speechless before her endless chatter. Too flustered to argue, he accidentally grabbed a bottle of ketchup instead of water in frustration. The next day, Lin Shi tried to ride on the back of his bike to school, but Junxing flatly refused and ordered her to take the bus instead. At the school gate, before Lin Shi could even catch his attention, another girl wearing glasses approached Junxing to ask about an assignment, and to Lin Shi's dismay, he eagerly helped her. In class, that girl even turned back several times to glare at Lin Shi. With the upcoming play, Yi Mian and Xie Am were the first to raise their hands to volunteer, and since Junxing was leading the group, the girl with glasses also proposed to join, boldly declaring that she would work well with him. But with 6 members in the group, why did she only mention Junxing? Lin Shi quickly sensed her hidden intentions. Of course, she wasn't going to let that happen, so she signed up as well. The play featured 2 roles, Hong Chu and Bai Chu, with Junxing playing Bai Chu, and the girl with glasses insisted on taking the role of Hong Chu just so she could embrace him in the final scene. Over Lin Shi's dead body would she allow that plan to succeed, so she suggested Xiang for the role instead, and everyone, even Junxing, agreed, leaving the girl, with glasses, seething with rage. To get back at Lin Shi, Liu Yin tricked her into staying late to rehearse the script. While Lin Shi was sitting in the schoolyard, enduring mosquito bites, a dark figure suddenly rushed past. A security guard was chasing right behind, making it look even more suspicious. The stranger then pulled Lin Shi straight into the bushes. Startled, she bit him and scolded him harshly. The boy turned out to be Qin Kai, the school's infamous troublemaker. He had been caught sneaking off to an internet cafe and was now running for his life. After scaring her a little, he convinced Lin Shi to escape with him. The two ended up sprinting around the campus together. Oddly enough, instead of fear, their chase carried a sense of excitement. They even promised to meet again. Just as Lin Shi reached the school gate, Junxing showed up to pick her up. He wasn't there out of concern, his mother had forced him to come. When Lin Shi explained that Liu Yin had tricked her, Junxing only scolded her, calling her foolish and lacking judgment. Yet, rather than feeling upset, Lin Shi was secretly delighted. She followed him closely, insisting he keep scolding her, while Junxing brushed her off, wondering if she had completely lost her mind. The next day, Lin Shi found her own way to strike back. She set a trap that left Liu Yin completely embarrassed by the strange noises it caused. This little cat, Lin Shi, clearly wasn't so easy to mess with. On the day of the play, Xiang became so nervous that he ended up with a stomachache, so Lin Shi immediately stepped in to replace him, taking on the role of Hong Chu. She worked seamlessly with Junxing to fight against the harmful cells played by Yimian, and the three of them delivered a remarkable performance. Lin Shi even got the chance to hug Junxing, just as she had wished, and surprisingly, Junxing also started to dislike her a little less. But just as Lin Shi earned a bit of his favor, disaster struck. While chasing after Junxing, she tripped clumsily and accidentally pulled down his pants, and to make matters worse, he was wearing bright yellow cartoon underwear. Lin Shi knew she was in trouble. Back home, Junxing decided to throw out all his embarrassing underwear. Just as he was about to toss one out the window, Lin Shi suddenly appeared and smacked him on the back, startling him so much that he fell and twisted his ankle, sending his belongings flying everywhere. And so, Junxing ended up with an unexpected trip to the hospital. Just as he discovered the situation, Junxing also noticed Lin Shi laughing and joking with a younger boy, which made him think they were teasing him and left him fuming. He forced Lin Shi to promise that she would stay by his side and act as his leg, and only then did he let her go, even exaggerating the seriousness of his injury to frighten her further. Because of Junxing's unstable leg, Lin Shi asked Xiang to let her join the same group so she could help him with the cleaning duties. On the day they worked as janitors, Lin Shi, afraid that Junxing might strain himself, quietly took on all of his share. During the break, Yimian noticed Lin Shi's hands turning red and felt sorry for her, but Lin Shi reassured her that this was simply her way of repaying the debt for causing Junxing's injury. She even told Yimian not to worry too much. Just then, the two of them saw a notice about a lost cat belonging to an elderly woman, and feeling sympathetic, the group decided to postpone their task of scraping off advertisements to go search for the cat instead. They searched for half the day, but still couldn't find the cat. Suddenly, Junxing spotted it perched up in a tree. Xiang, timid at heart, tried to climb but slid down before even making it halfway. Junxing was about to step in, but Lin Shi quickly stopped him. Unaware that his leg was actually fine, she still worried he might have trouble moving around. Without hesitation, Lin Shi volunteered to climb the tree herself, and watching her, Junxing grew anxious, shifting restlessly, ready to rush in and catch her if anything went wrong. When Lin Shi finally brought the cat safely down, he let out a sigh of relief. Seeing her bright smile, he couldn't help but feel a growing fondness for her. Then he noticed a scratch on her hand. For a moment, he wanted to gently put a bandage on it, but instead, his sharp tongue betrayed him, and he told her she shouldn't risk herself over an old cat. To an animal lover like Lin Shi, such words were unbearable. After a few heated remarks, she stormed off in anger, leaving Junxing completely bewildered. Later that night, Junxing went to the room and found Lin Shi fast asleep. He noticed the little note she had written with her to-do list, gently covered her with his jacket, and decided to make amends. That very night, he scraped off all the advertisement posters by himself. The next morning, when Lin Shi discovered the task had already been completed, she exclaimed in wonder if a snail fairy had really appeared. Junxing flicked her forehead and teased that maybe it was a snail prince instead. Just then, an older man carrying a bucket approached. It turned out he was the one responsible for posting the ads. Junxing tried to stop Lin Shi from meddling, but she insisted she would handle it smartly this time. To his dismay, her so-called smart way was to say a few sharp words that only provoked the man's anger, and he raised his hand as if to hit her. her. Lin Shi, however, wasn't easily intimidated. She dodged his move before he could even touch her. At that moment, Junxing kicked the bucket of water over him and pulled Lin Shi into a frantic escape. Luckily, Yi Mian and Xiang stepped in to hold the man back, giving the two just enough time to get away. It was then that Lin Shi suddenly realized how could Junxing run so effortlessly if his leg was supposed to be injured. Junxing remembered he was still pretending to be hurt and tried to bluff his way through. But Lin Shi wasn't about to be fooled. She told him she couldn't be friends with someone who treated his own health as a joke. After all, it wasn't her health he was toying with, but his, and that was what truly upset her. Though she turned to leave, she didn't forget to give Junxing's leg a sharp kick on the way out, as payback for making her suffer these past few days. But Lin Shi wasn't the type to let things slide easily. She decided to fight back with a little deception of her own. For several days, she deliberately avoided Junxing, and when Xiang suggested him as a candidate for the basketball team, she went so far as to act as though she didn't trust him at all. The position Lin Shi had been looking forward to was already taken, so instead she went to seek help from Qin Kai. But since Qin Kai couldn't skip class to assist her, Lin Shi quickly gave up on that idea. At that moment, Junxing had already bought a bottle of water, planning to use it as a peace offering to apologize to Lin Shi. Yet when he saw her walking back with Qin Kai, he angrily tossed the water straight into the trash. The next day, the long-awaited basketball team Lin Shi had dreamed of was finally formed, and its captain was none other than Junxing. On the court, the star players of the class showcased their talents one after another, with Junxing standing out most of all, his cool and commanding presence impossible to ignore. Just then, Qin Kai appeared, dragging his entire class along to challenge Junxing's team for the court. Words quickly proved useless, and Junxing accepted Qin Kai's provocation without hesitation. The two boys competed shot for shot, Qin Kai landing every throw flawlessly, while Junxing matched him without missing once. Over by the water stand, Qin Kai's teammates started stirring up trouble, and by the time Lin Shi arrived at the scene, it looked as if a full-scale brawl had just taken place. In reality, no real fight had broken out, though Xiang, losing his balance, tore a classmate's shirt and accidentally fell face first to the ground, ending up with a bloody nose. Their homeroom teacher, Xie, demanded that the two make peace by hugging each other tightly before letting them off the hook. Before the group dispersed, Junxing stood before Teacher Sun and earnestly explained his point of view, insisting that basketball was also an important part of the students' growth. His words managed to persuade her, and with Lin Shi and even Xiang adding their voices, the teacher finally agreed. On the day of the tournament, both Class 11-1 and Class 11-12s made it to the finals, and with Class November 1st's squad of beautiful cheerleaders boosting morale, the energy of the players soared even higher. As the match began, the two teams proved to be evenly matched, neither Class 11-1 nor Class 11-12s willing to back down. But just at the critical moment, one player was injured and had to be rushed to the infirmary. With less than a minute left and a 3-point gap on the scoreboard, Class 11-12s urged Class 11-1 to give up. Without any substitutes, Class 11-1 was ready to forfeit until Lin Shi stepped forward, refusing to accept defeat. Though the others scoffed that a girl couldn't possibly play, the referee allowed her onto the court. Using her small frame to her advantage, Lin Shi darted through the defense and seized the ball, but quickly found herself trapped. At that moment, her memory flashed back to a ball-handling trick she had once learned. For the first time, she executed the move, and to everyone's astonishment, nailed a long-distance shot, scoring 5 points for her team. Even so, Class 11-1 ultimately finished second, as Qin Kai clinched the winning score in the final seconds. Yet the team still chose to celebrate together, their spirits unshaken. Lin Shi somehow managed to get tipsy just from drinking tea, and in her unguarded state, she admitted everything. Junxing realized at once that the reason she had been ignoring him these past few days was simply to draw his attention, a classic tactic of using quiet withdrawal to make the other person notice. As rain began to fall, the two ducked into a shop to buy a raincoat, and for the very first time, Junxing allowed Lin Shi to ride on his bike. Even though they got drenched, the ride was filled with laughter, and later, as they dried their hair together, they playfully teased each other, their bond seemingly strengthened by the basketball game. The next day, Lin Shi noticed that Lin Shui seemed eager to befriend Junxing, though he remained as aloof as ever. Curious, Lin Shi went to Yi Mian for information. Yi Mian, however, misunderstood, thinking Lin Shi must be out of her mind to try setting up the boy she liked with another girl. In truth, Lin Shi saw Junxing as an older brother, for after a tragic accident, her real brother's heart had been transplanted into him. Since Yi Mian couldn't help, Lin Shi decided to turn to Qin Kai instead. Before Lin Shi could even ask him for help, Qin Kai pulled her along for a meal, though instead of eating, the two ended up just getting drinks. Knowing it was Qin Kai's Kai's birthday, Lin Shi had thoughtfully bought a small cake and even lit a candle for him. Before she could remind him to make a wish, he blew it out and cheekily declared that his wish was to spend every birthday with Lin Shi. His words, though playful, left him visibly touched, his face lighting up with both surprise and joy at her gesture. Later, the group all took part in auditioning as MCs for an event, and to everyone's surprise, Junxing also applied, partnering with Lin Shui. When Lin Shi offered to help him rehearse lines, Junxing ignored the script in favor of his programming book, passionately explaining code until Lin Shi found herself captivated by his intellectual charm. The next day, Junxing's attitude toward her softened. He even allowed her to ride on the back of his bike to school. Lin Shi chattered away, while Junxing grew impatient, and when she doubted that she and Qin Kai would ever be chosen, Junxing offhandedly remarked that they actually look good together. To her shock, the results revealed that Lin Shi and Qin Kai really had been selected as a pair. It turned out that the trouble had been stirred up by Qin Kai's underlings. Seeing their leader falter, they rushed to cover for him with a fabricated scandal. This left both Lin Shi and Qin Kai helpless, yet the one most unsettled was Junxing. The moment he caught sight of Lin Shi sitting beside Qin Kai, his smile vanished. During the school event, Junxing still co-hosted with Lin Shi, but every word he spoke about the beauty of student life seemed to carry a hidden meaning, as if he were actually speaking of his encounter with Lin Shi. For a few seconds, Lin Shi froze, unable to look away from the way he shone on stage. Yet when Qin Kai asked, she brushed it off, saying she was only watching Junxing and Lin Shui because they looked like a perfect pair. Unbeknownst to her, Qin Kai had gone to great lengths to prepare dazzling lights just for her, wanting Lin Shi to feel the brilliance of the spotlight. In front of all their classmates, he had even made up his mind to confess his feelings, but before the words could leave his lips, the teacher caught them and sent the entire group scattering like startled ducks. In that very moment, Junxing seized the chance to pull Lin Shi away, dismissing Qin Kai's grand gesture as nothing more than an act of foolish extravagance. The next day, Lin Shi was assigned to interview Junxing and Qin Kai. To her surprise, both of them kept trying to flirt with her, and whenever they praised each other's poetic lines, they would immediately turn around and throw jabs instead. Lin Shi could only be left speechless at these two childish boys. After the interview, she had to take photos for Lin Shui and Junxing. Holding the camera for the first time, she was a little awkward and needed Lin Shui to remind her to lower the lens. Yet, when it came to photographing Junxing, Lin Shi suddenly appeared far more professional, helping him adjust his posture, even guiding his expressions. Later, the four of them were taken to a game zone. Since Lin Shi had requested it beforehand, the instructor led Junxing and Lin Shui to a competitive challenge, while Lin Shi and Qin Kai were sent to a truck where they had to search for raincoats. Lin Shi hadn't even started when she quickly cracked the code and cleared the task with ease. Meanwhile, Junxing and Lin Shui were still fumbling their way through their mission, only to overhear the laughter and playful chase between Lin Shi and Qin Kai in the room next door. When the two groups accidentally pressed the door, Qin Kai and Junxing suddenly swapped places. Feeling hopeless, Qin Kai and Lin Shui gave up on the game altogether. Meanwhile, Lin Shi and Junxing were still busy arguing. Junxing was clearly upset. He reminded her that back when she had insisted on being friends with him, she was so persistent. Yet now, after finally catching his attention, she was happily playing around with Qin Kai instead. Lin Shi, unwilling to back down, fired back at him in a heated exchange. In the end, the two decided to stay behind and beat the game together. Locked inside a room with zombies climbing through the window, Junxing quickly came up with the passcode, but Lin Shi still hesitated, worrying aloud. What if they got it wrong and something went wrong? Then, with a glance at him, she added softly that at least Junxing would be by her side. Wasn't that, in a way, a confession? Junxing, unable to hold back, pulled Lin Shi tightly into his arms. Watching from the monitor, Qin Kai felt his blood boil with jealousy. That evening, back at home, Junxing snatched Lin Shi's food, dismissing it as nothing special, yet he had no intention of letting her take it back. The next morning, just as the two of them stepped outside, Yimian and a group of friends were already lying in wait. They wanted to confirm what they had suspected, since Lin Shi had accidentally sent out a picture of Junxing the night before. And so, the secret of the two living together was exposed. No matter how hard they tried, not even a plunge into the Yellow River could wash it away. To make matters worse, Lin Shui later came to find Lin Shi, sharing snacks with her while nervously revealing her true intention. She wanted Lin Shi to help set up a date with Junxing. More than that, she used Lin Shi as a shield, insisting she couldn't believe any denial unless Lin Shi herself arranged the outing. Lin Shi stammered in explanation, but Lin Shui remained unconvinced. In the end, although hesitant at first, Lin Shi still handed the tickets to Junxing when she returned home. Naturally, since he had no interest in such a setup, he refused without a second thought. To strike a deal with Junxing, Lin Shi agreed to help him with a painting for the upcoming competition. But Junxing couldn't be bothered. He knew perfectly well that Lin Shi wouldn't be able to draw anytime soon. Sure enough, after standing in front of the blackboard for ages, it was still completely blank. Determined, Lin Shi came up with a mischievous plan. Sneak a peek at the ideas from class 11/12. Even when Qin Kai caught her in the act, she didn't hesitate to kick him just to seize the chance to steal a glance. Yet the moment she looked, Lin Shi realized she was out of her depth. There was no way she could manage something like that. Qin Kai tried to comfort her, saying he could help come up with ideas, but Lin Shi brushed him off all the same. Later, Qin Kai offered to give her a ride home on his electric scooter. Lin Shi even had the helmet in her hands, ready to hop on when suddenly Junxing appeared out of nowhere. He insisted that Lin Shi had to go with him, warning her to know her boundaries. With one pulling and the other refusing to let go, Lin Shi was stuck between the two charmers. In the end, she decided to kick them both aside, riding Junxing's bike herself, while Junxing hopped onto Qin Kai's scooter as the passenger. That, at least, seemed like the most reasonable solution. At last, Lin Shi came up with an idea for her painting. Together with Junxing, she created an artwork of fireworks, and with the help of fluorescent powder, it turned out dazzlingly brilliant. Class 11-1 ultimately won first prize. Of course, part of the reason was that while Lin Shi and Junxing's mural was genuinely beautiful, Qin Kai had secretly altered class November 12th's wall newspaper into the shape of a pig's head. Even though Lin Shi had successfully helped Lin Shui arrange a date with Junxing, she couldn't feel happy about it. She still went shopping with him, pretending to be fascinated by a fluffy animal hat. But when Junxing brushed it off as childish, Lin Shi sulked immediately, pouting like the bear plushie right beside her. She had no idea that Junxing, on the other hand, felt utterly amused, having managed to tease her so easily. Not long after, Lin Shi caught sight of Junxing all dressed up, flowers in hand, perfectly prepared for the date. Not wanting to add to her heartache, Lin Shi pushed him out of the house. But in truth, Junxing wasn't going on a date with Lin Shui at all. He had only gone to make things clear and put an end to her feelings. Meanwhile, Lin Shi sat in quiet sorrow as everyone else celebrated New Year's together, leaving her alone. She even raised her glass toward the snow outside in a lonely toast, when suddenly, a familiar figure appeared behind her, clinking glasses with hers. It was none other than Junxing. Overjoyed, Lin Shi accepted the scarf he had bought for her, the very one she had admired before, and he gently wrapped it around her neck himself. Hand in hand, he led her outside, where they played together in the falling snow. But after only a few steps, Junxing was already gasping for air. Only then did Lin Shi realize he had been running circles around the streets, searching for her, just so they could share the first snowfall of the year. After their snowy escapade, the two ended up at the doctor's office, but the one who caught a fever was Lin Shi. Half delirious, she even muttered that she was lucky to be sick. Lucky? How could she think of it that way? That night, Junxing stayed by her side, caring for her until morning. She clutched his hands so tightly in her sleep that she left scratch marks on his skin. Spending so much time with Lin Shi, Junxing inevitably fell ill himself. Unfortunately, his mother wasn't skilled in the kitchen. Her attempt at porridge turned into rice. So once again, it was Lin Shi who stepped in to care for him. When she brought medicine to his room, she found Junxing fast asleep. Unable to resist, Lin Shi pressed her ear against Junxing's chest, wanting to hear the rhythm of his heartbeat. Just then, Junxing woke up, flustered. Lin Shi hurriedly explained that she was looking for her phone, even though it was right in her hand. Mortified, she bolted from the room. With the monthly exams approaching, Lin Shi dreaded finishing at the bottom of the class. If that happened, her father would surely scold her. But thanks to Junxing's tutoring, she did remarkably well, scoring 699 points, just one rank behind him. Overjoyed, Lin Shi joked about treating everyone like a big boss. But because of an earlier bet, it was an unlucky classmate with a lower score who had to pick up the bill for the group. Soon, it was time for Lin Shi to go home. Everyone felt a pang of sadness, especially Junxing. Still, it was only for the winter break 1 month away. Before she left, the two of them even played a game of stone throwing. Determined to win, Lin Shi ended up tossing her own phone by mistake. Junxing caught her just in time before she could jump in after it. Lin Shi was left heartbroken over her phone, while Junxing couldn't help laughing at her misfortune. To make up for his mistake, Junxing opened his arms for Lin Shi on the bus, letting her hug him. Lin Shi didn't hesitate, immediately burying herself in his embrace. The gesture left Junxing both startled and flustered. But when they arrived home, Lin Shui was already waiting at the door. She told Junxing she had something important to say, and revealed the truth. Lin Shi's older brother had donated his heart to save Junxing's younger brother. Only then did Junxing realize why Lin Shi had clung so stubbornly to him all this time. Not long after Lin Shi stepped inside, she overheard Junxing telling Lin Shi that he hated her, that he found her annoying and bothersome. Those cruel words kept Lin Shi awake all night. By morning, when Junxing knocked on her door, Lin Shi had already left with her suitcase. Just then, Qinkai appeared, and Junxing immediately grabbed his scooter to chase after her. But halfway through, the scooter broke down, forcing Junxing to abandon Qinkai and continue on foot. Qinkai dragged the faulty bike behind him, yet by the time they caught up, Lin Shi was already gone. Out of breath and defeated, Junxing ignored Qinkai's questions entirely. Lin Shi finally returned home, surprising her parents with her outstanding exam results, second place in the entire class. But the moment Junxing's name came up, her mood soured. She skipped the delicious dinner her mother had prepared, unable to swallow a single bite. Her parents even bought her a brand new phone. But the first thing she did after turning it on was ignore Junxing's message. The next day, Junxing had no choice but to call through Sheong, who then patched the line through Yi Mian's phone to reach Lin Shi. Yet the second she heard his voice and answered hello, Lin Shi hung up immediately. With no other option, Junxing went straight to her home, which was also her family's grocery shop. Still angry, Lin Shi confronted him sharply, raising her voice and scolding him. In the scuffle, they accidentally shoved each other, nearly knocking things over, before their eyes met in a lingering moment of unspoken tension. Just then, Lin Shi's father popped his head out, inviting Junxing to come inside. Lin Shi, however, kept her frosty attitude unchanged. She poured water for Junxing, but didn't hand it to him directly. She left it so far away that there was no way he could reach it. Lin Shi's parents, however, were warm and welcoming. They kept picking food for Junxing, completely ignoring the dark expression on Lin Shi's face beside them. After the meal, the four of them headed to the basketball court for some exercise. Lin Shi even told Junxing to let her father win, though it was still unclear who would end up yielding to whom. Junxing, known for his skills on the court, surprisingly couldn't hold his own against Lin Shi's middle-aged father. In the end, the one sprawled on the ground, exhausted and out of breath, was none other than Junxing. When Lin Shi handed him water, she wasn't about to make it easy for him. Instead, she forced him to take on both her and her father alone. To make matters worse, the father-daughter duo cheated. Her father clung tightly to Junxing, while Lin Shi tossed the ball into the hoop. After playing the whole day, Junxing finally found a chance to ask why Lin Shi was upset with him. He had to explain that what she heard that day was only half of the story, and that she hadn't stayed long enough to hear the part where he praised her. Still, it was inevitable that Lin Shi would feel disappointed, for her brother's heart had already been given to Junxing's younger brother. Those words made Lin Shi reflect on how she had behaved in front of Junxing before. She no longer had the face to look him in the eye. Hopefully, Junxing didn't think she was out of her mind. Yet what truly mattered to him was not Lin Shi's apology. What he wanted to know was, if not for that heart, would Lin Shi still want to be his friend? And if the heart had belonged to someone else, would she have treated them with the same kindness she had shown him? Before Lin Shi could answer, Xiang and Yi Mian appeared, clearly part of Junxing's arrangement. The group went out cycling together, but it seemed only Xiang and Yi Mian were carefree and happy. Junxing and Lin Shi each carried their own emotions. Eventually, Lin Shi did respond to his questions. Yes, she would still be kind to the person who carried her brother's heart. And as for whether she would remain friends with Junxing, the answer was also yes, they would always be friends, for fate had brought the two of them together. Lin Shi, of course, cherished this bond that had grown out of a misunderstanding. When the new semester began, Qinkai immediately picked a fight with Lin Shi. He complained that he was failing and on the verge of repeating the year. Yet it turned out this whole scene was just another prank cooked up by Qinkai and his gang. Still, when Lin Shi saw his reddened eyes, she couldn't quite believe that Qinkai's tears were only because of bad grades. As Lin Shui was about to leave, she sought out Junxing to say goodbye. She also asked him to apologize to Lin Shi on her behalf for having taken advantage of her. Before she left, Junxing reminded her to take care of herself. After all, they had been childhood friends, and naturally, there was a bond of friendship between them. It seemed Lin Shui too had finally let go of her attachment to Junxing. Back in class, Junxing saw Lin Shi talking with Qinkai, and soon enough, the two men were bickering again. When Junxing tried to take Lin Shi home, he learned that she had already moved into the dormitory. The next day, after comparing notes on their studies, Junxing and Qinkai ended up trailing Lin Shi all the way to the gates of the girls' dormitory. Just as Qinkai was about to head back to the boys' dorm, he noticed that Junxing was still following. To his surprise, Junxing said he wanted to walk Qinkai back as well, only for Qinkai to discover that Junxing had also decided to move into the dormitory. To make things even more complicated, Junxing ended up sharing a room with Qinkai. Qinkai was furious but couldn't do anything about it. Yet when night fell, it was was Junxing, who nearly lost his mind. As Qin Kai snored like a pig in deep sleep, forced to block out the noise, Junxing had no choice but to put on headphones. With their competitive natures, neither was willing to back down, so they even turned it into a contest to see who would get hit with the chalkboard eraser the most. In a game of tic-tac-toe, Junxing easily defeated Qin Kai, only to have Lin Shi smack the eraser straight at his head. But when it came to solving a Rubik's Cube, Junxing couldn't keep up with Qin Kai. Still unwilling to admit defeat, they moved on to riddles, but since all the puzzles were made up by Lin Shi, neither of them could solve a single one. In the end, both were pelted with the eraser, sending chalk dust flying everywhere. Their rivalry didn't stop there. Even in the showers, they teased each other until things got out of hand and turned into an all-out fistfight. The next day, Lin Shi waited in vain for them to show up, only to discover that one of them had sprained his ankle while the other had caught a cold. Taking on the teacher's request, Lin Shi brought medicine to visit Junxing. While the two were on the phone, Qin Kai peeked over to eavesdrop. The moment he found out Lin Shi was coming, he bolted faster than Junxing. Despite his injured leg, Lin Shi could only shake her head at the two of them. She wanted them both to rest in the infirmary, but Qin Kai, not missing his chance, insisted that Lin Shi support him on the way. In the end, it was Junxing who decided to carry Qin Kai himself, just to get it over with. Once they were in the infirmary, Junxing and Qin Kai finally settled down to sleep. Lin Shi carefully pulled the blanket over each of them. When she touched Junxing, his body was burning hot, and she couldn't help but worry. With Junxing's younger brother about to return, Lin Shi was both nervous and excited. She even bought him a gift, though she feared he might not like it. When she finally saw Lu Qi, she froze in delight, staring at him so intently that the boy teased her, asking if she had needed him to turn around so she could see him more clearly. Thankfully, the toy she bought suited his taste perfectly, and he was so thrilled that he wanted to skip dinner just to race cars with her. But with Junxing's father, the family's master chef, returning home, the children had no choice but to head downstairs and savor his cooking. That evening, Qin Kai made a point of coming to pick Lin Shi up, yet instead of taking her back to the dorm, he insisted on introducing her to his grandfather, who turned out to be a tree. Even the family sauna had been transformed by Qin Kai into his own private paradise. Still, it had taken all his tricks to persuade Lin Shi to come, only for her to leave almost as soon as she arrived. Lin Shi even reminded Qin Kai to be careful, or he might get caught. But her words turned out to be rather unlucky. Just the day after she said it, their homeroom teacher, Mr. Xie, announced that Qin Kai would be punished. He even insisted that Qin Kai bring his parents in, or else he would be expelled. Lin Shi knew Qin Kai's situation. His father never cared for him, and his mother had passed away early, so the group gathered to find someone who could borrow the role of a mother for Qin Kai. The only suitable candidate was Junxing's mother. At first, Junxing had no intention of helping. After all, why should he? But when he heard about Qin Kai's circumstances, he reconsidered. He even took the initiative to approach Qin Kai and offered to let him borrow his mother. Qin Kai, overjoyed, immediately leapt onto Junxing's motorbike and clung tightly to him all the way home. The moment he stepped through the door, Qin Kai threw his arms around Junxing's mother and called her Mom. The sudden gesture startled her, but once she heard the whole story, she naturally agreed to help. The next day, dressed to impress, Junxing's mother made her appearance. With just a few sharp words, she completely changed Mr. Shai's mind. The teacher, who had been determined to expel Qin Kai, suddenly turned around and practically begged for him to stay in school. When Qin Kai walked Junxing's mother home, there was a flicker of sadness in his eyes. Perhaps he was a little envious of others, wishing he too had a mother like her. Meanwhile, Lin Shi and Junxing were caught up in settling a quarrel between Lu Qi and a certain Wang Dong who had been bullying him. To their surprise, the bully turned out to be a girl. The two kids decided to settle things with a race, but Wang Dong's car ended up crashing straight into the fountain. Lin Shi and Junxing rushed in together to retrieve it, but after getting the car back, instead of running out, they stayed behind, splashing and playing in the water. They paid no attention at all to the children still watching from the sidelines. All the while, they were saving up for tickets to see Blackpink's concert. Shaean and Yi Mian dragged in Junxing, the undisputed master of typing, to help out. True to his reputation, he was a computer prodigy. The moment tickets went on sale, Junxing immediately secured them. Afterward, Junxing and Lin Shi went on a trip to the bookstore. While standing at the checkout, Lin Shi's eyes landed on some adorable keychains. The moment her gaze sparkled, Junxing had already bought her a pile of boxes to unwrap. The little rabbit and fox were just too cute. Lin Shi even wanted to gift one to Junxing, but he dismissed it as childish and refused it. Yet when Lu Qi and Wang Dong came along, hoping to get the same keychains, Junxing claimed them for himself, saying he already wanted them. He even admitted he planned to wear it together with someone he liked. Lin Si was genuinely surprised by his words. Later, Junxing discovered that the tickets Yi Mian had bought were fake, sold by a scammer. He hesitated to tell her, worried she might be so shocked that she'd fate. In the end, he couldn't persuade her at all. Yi Mian refused to believe her ticket was fake, insisting she had checked it carefully multiple times. To make matters worse, the counterfeit tickets were even delivered to her. During class, the power went out. Seizing the moment while homeroom teacher Shi stepped out, the whole class indulged in a bit of mischief. Lin Shi and Junxing even draped a jacket over themselves and listened to music together. So absorbed were they that when Mr. Shi and the lights returned, the two didn't notice a thing. Planning to check on them, the teacher was disappointed to discover that Lin Shi and Junxing were actually studying diligently. Slightly embarrassed, he turned to praise the hard-working pair in front of the class. Meanwhile, Yi Mian discovered that her concert ticket had been tucked inside a book that Mr. She had confiscated earlier. She tried to retrieve it, but the teacher demanded that she score 130 points in math first. Everyone advised Yi Mian to give up, yet she insisted on pushing herself. Feeling frustrated and overlooked, she even broke down in tears, seeing her peers' dreams being respected, while hers seemed ignored. Eventually, the group rallied behind her, dedicating themselves to studying hard. After the exams, Yi Mian scored an impressive 132 points. To lift her spirits upon learning the concert was fake, the friends decided to form a band. None of them actually knew how to play an instrument, but they practiced with full enthusiasm. Despite their energy, the music they produced was less than harmonious. Just when things seemed bleak, Qin Kai showed up. He had a close-knit group of friends who played music, and he invited them over to teach a few songs. Of course, none of them were professionals, so their skills were far from perfect. When the concert finally took place, Yi Mian was initially disappointed. Having spent a small fortune on fake tickets, she left feeling dejected, only to be met by Qin Kai's friends performing passionately just for her. Seeing their dedication, she couldn't hold back her tears. She hadn't expected everyone to put in so much effort on her behalf. Of course, their performance wasn't flawless. They were essentially lip-syncing, but Yi Mian felt genuinely uplifted and comforted by their gesture. Meanwhile, Junxing confided to Lin Shi that he planned to attend Tsinghua University alongside her. Yet the very next day, he dragged Lin Shi to his mother's workplace. Junxing even secretly told Lin Shi that he was like a magic staff, hinting at something important. What he wanted to tell his mother was his decision not to pursue commercial programming. Instead, he planned to join the Olympic team to compete for Tsinghua University. When he came out, he wore a sullen face, though in reality, his mother fully supported him. To celebrate, Junxing treated Lin Shi to some fresh cream ice cream. He talked about the Olympic competition, but it was nothing like 2 years ago. Even the test questions alone were beyond him. When Lin Shi glanced at them, she exclaimed, "Which planet's language is this?" All she could do was cheer him on. Determined, Junxing studied day and night until he could tackle the exam questions. During class, he didn't waste a single moment on programming, but pushing himself so hard came at a cost. He suffered severe sleep deprivation, dozing off multiple times in class despite repeated reminders from the teacher. At lunchtime, all he wanted was to sleep. Even after drinking a can of coffee from Xi'an, he seemed even sleepier. He couldn't help but wonder, was there something like a sleeping potion hidden in that coffee? The group hatched a plan to block the teacher and give Junxing another chance. Faced with this little army, the teacher gave in, even retreating into the restroom. Thus was born the legendary toilet exam room, and Junxing finally had his opportunity. He could tell because the teacher was smiling. Meanwhile, Sheang and Yi Mian's scheming was discovered by Mr. She. The two bolted, leaving behind half their treasures for Lin Shi and Junxing, who were busy checking their scores, not fully understanding what was happening. Junxing still dragged Lin Shi along like a whirlwind. In reality, they were being chased by a security guard. They ran up several flights of stairs, yet the guard relentlessly pursued them. Everyone else was exhausted, and Xiang and Yi Mian weren't faring any better. They could run fast, but they couldn't outrun Mr. She, so they were eventually caught and taken to the administration office. Lin Shi and Junxing, however, managed to escape, and as for Xiang's abandoned treasures, there was no way they could fall into the hands of Mr. Shi, so the duo happily devoured them themselves. The two of them were so caught up in devouring their treasures that they almost forgot the main goal. Junxing had successfully passed the test and was back on the Olympic team. University entrance exams were approaching, and Lin Shi wanted to join the Tsinghua University prep camp. It seemed she was the only one registering, as her friends had all chosen their own paths, and Junxing had gone off to train with the Olympic team. Each regional prep camp only allowed 3 participants, and Lu Xin, fearing that Lin Shi might take a spot, schemed to sabotage her. She even dragged her mother to meet with homeroom teacher She. away, claiming that Lin Shi and Jun Xing were in an early romance and therefore unsuitable for the program. Lu Xin haughtily grabbed the keyboard that Lin Shi had bought, planning to give it to Jun Xing herself. She meddled with someone else's belongings and had the audacity to lecture them, but Lin Shi needed only a few words to shut both her and her mother down. In the end, Lin Shi secured her place at the prep camp. After months of intense preparation, the day of the final interview arrived. Lin Shi shared her motivation for wanting to study at Tsinghua. At first, it had been her older brother's dream, but after everything she had experienced, Lin Shi now wanted to study medicine to save more lives. When Lin Shi stepped outside, Jun Xing had already been waiting for her. While taking selfies together, they noticed a cosplay festival and, driven by curiosity, decided to check out the club hosting it. Without hesitation, the two tried on costumes and even did some makeup. Even before officially entering the school, they moved around as if it were their own home. After changing, they strolled around the venue. The spooky decorations made them jump a few times, but the biggest shock came when a senior suddenly appeared right behind them. They were asked which year they were in, but Jun Xing and Lin Shi were completely out of sync, each giving a different answer. Eventually, they had to admit they were underclassmen, yet confident that they would definitely get into Tsinghua. After tiring themselves out from playing, it was finally time to head home. Back at the park, Lin Shi received her results for the literature exam. The outcome didn't look promising. She had made 2 mistakes and feared she might fail, but since this was just a practice test, she still had plenty of opportunities ahead. Jun Xing tried to comfort Lin Shi, but she was still panicking, so he gave her a lucky charm, his very first computer CPU. After it had broken, he had salvaged it as a good luck token, something so precious, yet Jun Xing entrusted it to Lin Shi because she was just as important to him. After returning from their trip, the entire senior class had to bury themselves in studies. On top of that, thousands of new rules had been added. At mealtimes, everyone ate like starving tigers. During lessons, they were drowsy from staying up late to cram. And the ultimate battle? The mandatory bath day. The moment the bell rang, the whole class sprinted to the showers, but some were too slow and missed the hot water. To make matters worse, the showers closed at 11 o'clock, leaving many frustrated. Only those lucky enough to return home could wash properly. Seeing everyone complain about the limited time to shower, Jun Xing and his superhero quartet came up with a plan. They opened the school showers to the whole class, letting everyone bathe to their heart's content. While the students rejoiced, the 4 pranksters ended up facing Mr. Shi's wrath for their antics. The teacher made the whole group run laps around the playground, asking after each round if they had learned their lesson. Their answer remained, not yet. Lin Shi and Yi Mian, knowing what had happened, tried to plead with Mr. Shi for mercy. When that failed, they jumped in and ran with everyone. The students joined forces, hoping to pressure him, but the more they ran, the happier the teacher became, so there was no stopping anytime soon. Of course, he was strict, but in the end, not only did he forgive them, he even extended shower time by an extra half hour. Even though Jun Xing had decided to aim for Tsinghua University, he didn't have his father's support. The next day, the class created a wish tree where everyone could post their university goals. Jun Xing stood silently to the side at first, but eventually, he added his own wish: Tsinghua University. Jun Xing's father had guessed who had caused his son to change his mind from going to study at a business academy in the US to staying in the country to aim for Tsinghua University. He went directly to meet Lin Shi in person. After talking with Jun Xing's father, Lin Shi returned to class and found Jun Xing cleaning. On a whim, she started teasing him, claiming she no longer wanted to go to Tsinghua. She argued that it was boring with so many people registering. Jun Xing knew immediately that his father had visited Lin Shi, but that didn't stop her from speaking her mind. The two ended up arguing, and Lin Shi walked away. Jun Xing, too, lost all motivation to continue cleaning. He went to the playground to sit for a while, noticing Qin Kai limping as he practiced running. The two of them rode together on Qin Kai's electric bike all the way to the outskirts to catch some fresh air. Returning, Jun Xing ran into Lin Shi, but didn't feel like talking. Qin Kai could tell at a glance that the two had quarreled, which only amused him more. Lin Shi and Jun Xing wanted to maintain their silent treatment a little longer, but suddenly, Xian left a note and disappeared. Yi Mian assumed he had gone up the mountain, so the group hurried to search for him, splitting into 2 teams to cover more ground. Yet after half a day of calling his name at the top of their lungs, there was still no sign of Xiang. It turned out that Xian had climbed up the mountain to find a stone lion for good luck. The note he left wasn't a farewell letter after all, but it had caused the whole group quite a scare. The little stone lion was tiny and hidden in the grass, looking surprisingly adorable. Since they had gone all this way, everyone lined up to make their wishes. As they were about to leave, they saw Liu Xin on the verge of a serious breakdown. The group had to intervene immediately. university. To help her calm down, everyone took turns shouting out their frustrations, the pressures and grievances they had endured under their parents. Coincidentally, the parents had also come up the mountain in search of their children, and they overheard all of their heartfelt emotions. Junxing's father appeared as well, and Junxing returned home with him. His father had softened, finally respecting his son's decision rather than remaining rigid. The most important exams of their school lives had arrived. Everyone prepared meticulously, yet just as the final subject was about to begin, Lin Shi received news that her father had been hospitalized. While her classmates were finishing the last of their exams and celebrating the end of grueling preparation, Lin Shi was at the hospital, anxiously watching over her father. Fortunately, he was safe, and the surgery was successful. A few days later, Lin Shi was still at home with her father when Junxing and Lu Qi came to visit. They claimed to be paying a visit, but it felt more like they were freeloading. Still, Lu Qi's presence lifted Lin Shi's parents' spirits, especially her father, who had never seemed so cheerful. Everyone had been accepted into their dream schools, and Lin Shi was genuinely happy for them. She even tried to borrow some of their luck for herself, though the worried expressions on their faces reminded her of the extra year she would have to spend repeating. The next day, everyone was heading off to university, and that evening, the group decided to celebrate one last night together before parting ways. After sending everyone off, Junxing handed Lin Shi the Tsinghua University acceptance letter. He said it was hers, though it was actually a fake. Before saying goodbye, he couldn't resist calling her back for a farewell hug. In just about 300 days, Lin Shi would be heading to Tsinghua, where the whole group would be waiting for her. She had thought she would be left to face the challenge alone, but Qin Kai would also be repeating a year, so having a familiar face nearby made the wait a little easier. Junxing's university life was equally colorful. As soon as he arrived on campus, he joined the drama club. Lin Shi often called him whenever she could, eager to hear about his life at university. She listened as Junxing recounted how many female students had been asking for his WeChat, and though she felt a pang of jealousy, she pretended not to care. Meanwhile, Lin Shi diligently continued her studies. With Junxing's birthday approaching, she and Qin Kai specially bought a cake, planning to celebrate via video call. Yet, when the candles were almost burnt down, Lin Shi still hadn't been able to reach him. Checking his Facebook, she saw photos of Junxing happily celebrating with his senior, Ming Ya, which left her disappointed. Still, she calmly packed the cake away. Sensing something was off, Qin Kai tried to help. He borrowed a classmate's phone to call Junxing, but the person who answered was Ming Ya. It turned out the drama club was throwing Junxing a birthday party, and everyone was enjoying the celebration together. When Junxing finally picked up his phone, he saw 1,000 missed calls from Lin Shi, but even if he tried to call her back, she wouldn't pick up. Lin Shi hid in a quiet corner, feeling utterly dejected. She ate the cake she had painstakingly prepared for Junxing all by herself. From that day on, she didn't answer his calls or messages. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. On the occasion of returning to cheer on the 12th graders, Junxing came back as an outstanding graduate. Seeing Lin Shi sitting next to Qin Kai left him feeling a little hollow. Eventually, Lin Shi and Junxing found a moment to talk. It had been a long time since they last spoke, but the atmosphere between them was no longer as warm as it used to be. Before Junxing could say much, Qin Kai arrived to take Lin Shi away. Junxing had to summon all his courage just to chase after her, telling her that he was still waiting. Time passed swiftly, and Lin Shi had been admitted to Tsinghua. It was finally time for her to fulfill her promise to her friends. Yet Qin Kai was still with her, and Junxing could see how well they got along. Lin Shi even let Qin Kai carry her bags. What disappointed Junxing the most was that, during the reunion meal, he hadn't even had a chance to join before leaving in a sense of emptiness. When he heard Lin Shi ask why she liked Junxing, he was struck silent. Lin Shi herself wasn't much better off emotionally. That evening, she sneaked out with Yimian to watch a performance by the drama club. Though it was just a play, everything felt so real to Lin Shi. Even as Yimian reminded her that it was only part of the script, Lin Shi couldn't shake off her unease, especially when she overheard two characters planning a meeting outside. At the cafe, a young man named Bingyu noticed Lin Shi. He even performed a special song just for her. Seeing him try to get close to Lin Shi, Junxing grew furious and wanted to intervene, only to be blocked by a chubby girl. Despite sitting with other people, Junxing and Lin Shi's eyes kept finding each other. They even ate cake to tease one another. Yet Lin Shi couldn't bear it any longer. She stood up to leave, but Bingyu pulled her back, beginning his usual flirtatious routines. He poured her a drink, and Lin Shi, almost unconsciously, took a sip. Seeing Bingyu trying to get Lin Shi drunk, Junxing could no longer stand it. He snatched the glass from her and drank it himself. Then, deliberately, he poured a large glass of alcohol for Bingyu, thinking that if he wanted to drink, he might as well finish this one first. As the argument argument between the two men continued. Lin Shi swayed unsteadily from the alcohol. Junxing immediately steadied her while pushing Bingyu away, ensuring he couldn't touch her. He had to carry her home, but Lin Shi was so drunk that she completely lost awareness, even mispronouncing Junxing's name. Once she regained some clarity, Lin Shi began to pour out all the frustrations she had been holding inside. She even removed the lucky charm Junxing had given her and returned it to him, though she cried and insisted she didn't need him anymore. Junxing held her firmly and carried her all the way back to the dormitory. Meanwhile, to expose Bingyu's true colors, Junxing and Qin Kai spent the entire night setting up fake accounts to trick him, and the plan worked perfectly. It was a painstaking effort that truly paid off. Yet when Junxing came to tell Lin Shi about it, she simply brushed off his actions, determined to make her see. Junxing went to Lin Shi's classroom, only to find that she was familiar with quite a few classmates. Unexpectedly, he ended up becoming a live model for the class to study different muscle groups. It was utterly humiliating, and to make matters worse, he had to stand there for the entire lesson while Lin Shi sneakily took photos. When he demanded she delete them, she cheekily sent them to the class group chat instead. Everyone teased that Junxing was now pursuing his beloved, and just as the atmosphere between him and Lin Shi began to soften a little, Senior Mingya suddenly ran over and dragged Junxing away. Lin Shi wanted to see what the senior was after, but then she overheard Mingya say that all of her happiness was thanks to Junxing. Hearing this, Lin Shi turned and walked away, not wanting to listen to any more of the story. She even followed Bingyu, complaining that Junxing was bothering her, but Junxing, thick-skinned as ever, stayed put. When Lin Shi went to get some water, Junxing seized the moment to warn Bingyu. If he didn't stay away from Lin Shi, he'd tear that face of yours off. Bingyu could only leave in frustration. Then, with the added confusion of relaying messages between Yimian and Xian, Lin Shi and Junxing ended up having a huge argument again. They weren't even sure anymore if they were speaking their own minds or just repeating messages. In the end, both stormed off in anger. The next day, Lin Shi even blocked Junxing, forcing him to follow her all the way to the driving school. Letting a woman take the wheel was practically a crime. Lin Shi started driving. She watched everyone not only fasten their seatbelts, but also cling tightly to the car. Seeing Lin Shi maneuver the vehicle, the three young men inside couldn't help but break into a cold sweat, fearing they might leave this world at any moment. But Lin Shi, tired of hearing Junxing talk so much, pulled him out of the car. She spoke in one long breath, yet Junxing stopped her, saying that he cared because he liked her. Still, she didn't believe him, thinking he was too busy bringing happiness to Senior Mingya. Junxing had to drag Lin Shi along to witness that happiness. It turned out that Senior Mingya had specially prepared an anniversary celebration for 3 years of being together with his lover. Mingya had been troubling Junxing for the past few days because she wanted him to teach her how to fly a plane. With the misunderstanding cleared up, Lin Shi recounted all the times she had previously misjudged Junxing. Now, he finally understood why she would occasionally sulk and refuse to speak to him. Junxing also confessed to Lin Shi. Though it was a bit sudden, Lin Shi still gave him 4 choices. He randomly chose C, and it turned out to be correct. It wasn't luck. No matter which option he had picked, she would have agreed 100%. The two of them were finally together, happy at last. The one left heartbroken was Qin Kai, who could only watch the couple embrace and leave in pain. Thus began their dating life. Lin Shi and Junxing, like any other couple, began showing affection everywhere. During the holiday, they had planned to escape far away for a camping trip, yet their friends somehow appeared out of nowhere, insisting on tagging along. Naturally, Junxing was visibly annoyed. He had finally gotten the chance to go on his first long trip with his girlfriend, only to have it ruined by this dazzlingly energetic group. During the trip, Junxing and Lin Shi also helped Yimian and Xiang make peace. While hiding behind a wall, the two of them accidentally bumped heads. Junxing was about to steal a kiss, but their friends were right there, watching them get intimate. It completely ruined the mood. How could he continue now? The group decided to go boating. Junxing almost managed to resume what he had started, yet their over-enthusiastic friends interfered once again, causing the boats to crash into each other. Everyone ended up falling into the water. That evening, Lin Shi and Junxing simply sat leaning against each other. Before they could do anything more, Xiang and Yimian kept finding ways to interrupt them, again and again. Junxing could only wait until everyone was sound asleep to gently place a kiss on Lin Shi's forehead. But Lin Shi had already woken up without him noticing. Seeing Junxing step outside, she quietly followed him. As the sun began to rise, Lin Shi unexpectedly took the initiative and kissed Junxing. At last, no one could stop the young couple from sharing their first kiss. Their fun was cut short when Junxing's mother called. He and Lin Shi immediately booked a flight back, only to find out that Lu Qi had sneaked off to play soccer with friends and caught a cold. cold. Fortunately, it wasn't serious. Back at school, Junxing came up with an idea to create a monitoring bracelet suitable for people with heart conditions like Lu Qi. With the concept ready, he was referred by Principal Wang to Professor Qin. However, when Lin Shi and Junxing knocked on the professor's door all afternoon, they were met only with irritation. He even chased them away. Undeterred, the two came up with a new strategy. Every day, Lin Shi and Junxing went to Professor Qin's house to help with small chores, even giving him a cactus as a gift. One day, they went to Professor Qin's house. When they opened the door, they found him cleaning up a disaster he had caused by forgetting to turn off the tap. Lin Shi and Junxing enthusiastically helped salvage the pile of books and documents, even giving Professor Qin peace of mind so he could step out and work. By the time he returned, the two of them had already collapsed asleep. They made themselves completely at home, and their efforts were finally rewarded. Professor Qin began to notice them. Not only did he invite them to stay and eat steamed buns together, but he also let them try out their experiment. After numerous trials, the demo for the heart rate monitoring bracelet was finally completed. Lin Shi even tested Junxing's heartbeat while he wore the bracelet, but one person wasn't enough. Junxing and Lin Shi decided to recruit their friends as test subjects. The whole group went to the park, each receiving a bracelet, so their heart rates could be monitored anywhere, anytime. They were having fun when suddenly it started to pour. Everyone scattered in all directions. Junxing went to check the train station, but the heavy rain made 2 trips futile. It seemed like they wouldn't be able to return home today. Across the street, there was a hotel, and naturally, the two chose to take shelter there. Junxing was made to sleep on the sofa. It was probably a bit too small, so he couldn't get a wink of sleep all night. As a result, he decided to climb into Lin Shi's bed. But before he could even settle in, Lin Shi woke up. Losing his balance, Junxing accidentally fell on top of her. The closeness made Lin Shi embarrassed, and her heart rate shot up, causing the bracelet to beep loudly. Flustered, she blamed the bracelet for malfunctioning because it had gotten wet in the rain. In reality, bracelet was working perfectly. However, their friends insisted it was broken, making Lin Shi think the experiment had failed. With exams coming up, they couldn't upgrade the bracelet in time. Yet, their device really showed promise and even passed the preliminary round. Professor Qin personally reminded them that a team effort was essential for victory. Fortunately, Lin Shi and Junxing already had some very reliable friends right there with them. The two of them also went to the hospital to request medical records for further testing. However, they neither brought student ID cards nor national ID cards, so of course no one would trust them. The two of them then turned into little thieves. Taking advantage of the moment when the security guard was distracted, they snatched the records and ran. But bad luck struck. As soon as they looked back, the janitor had already thrown all the papers into the trash. The two of them chased after it, nearly fainting, while everyone else was busy with the bracelet project. Qin Kai had returned to the Olympic competition and brought home a gold medal. He wanted to meet Lin Shi to give her the medal, but she brought along all her friends. Qin Kai thought his plan had failed, yet he managed to block Junxing and whisked Lin Shi away. He pinned the medal on her and confessed that he had liked her for a long time. However, Lin Shi had already fallen for someone else. Still, she cherished her youthful days, knowing she had 2 young men who cared for her deeply like Qin Kai. They would remain friends, and after this embrace, Qin Kai had to let go of his attachment to Lin Shi. The beautiful memories between them would forever remain unforgettable. Lin Shi left Qin Kai's side and turned back to find Junxing. She didn't forget to fall into the arms of her true love. Returning to the startup project, Junxing decided to disband the team, thinking it had become a burden on everyone. But on the day of the competition, the whole team still showed up. Junxing's dream was also the dream of the entire group. They had thought the project would fail because the judges found many flaws, yet unexpectedly, it made it to the next round. Afterwards, the team worked together to upgrade the bracelet. Now, it could even read the wearer's thoughts through the tape. Such an achievement deserved a celebration. Late at night, Lin Shi and Junxing took a stroll in the park, a rare chance to be alone. They seized the moment to share a passionate kiss. They had poured so much effort into their work, but at the last minute, the whole team slipped up and Bing Yu stole their plan. His team presented it first, and he arrogantly tried to show off in front of Junxing's group. Despite their design being stolen, Junxing remained calm, casually eating his meal. Just then Bing Yu came with his team to pick a fight. Seeing everyone standing up to argue with him, he pointed out that it was Junxing's work. Junxing didn't flinch and confronted him directly. When words failed, fists were used. The fight escalated to the point that the entire group had to go to the police station. As they were leaving, Bing Yu still wanted to stir up trouble. He claimed that without proof of plagiarism, Junxing's design would belong to him. But the months of hard work the team had put in could not simply be stolen in a few days. That night, everyone stayed up up all night to perfect their design. Their efforts were rewarded. In the end, the winners of the competition were Junxing's team, while Bingyu and his accomplices had to leave empty-handed. The university graduation ceremony finally arrived. They couldn't believe they had already finished college. The whole group took photos to preserve memories of their youth and then shared a meal together before parting ways. From that day on, each would follow their own path. Xiang decided to return and work for Junxing and Lin Shi's company. Loving startups, he chose to pursue what he enjoyed alongside his close friends. 2 more years passed. Junxing's company had grown into a large corporation. Lin Shi was now working as an intern at a hospital and performing very well. Junxing personally came to pick her up after her shift, but instead of taking her home, he brought her to his own house. As soon as they entered the house, Lin Shi climbed onto the sofa and fell asleep. When Junxing brought out the cake, she didn't even bother to wake up. It had been a long time since the whole group had gathered, and they had planned to return to their old school together. That day, Junxing and Lin Shi arrived a full hour early. Many years had passed, and the school had changed a lot. As they stood there enjoying the breeze and admiring the old campus, countless balloons suddenly appeared in the sky. The scene felt very familiar. In the hallway, numerous jars were arranged. Another special preparation by Junxing. It mirrored exactly the day Lin Shi wanted to be friends with him, though without the principal Xie's wig. Next, Junxing brought Lin Shi into a classroom and had her play a computer game. All of it recreated memories marking important moments for the two of them. Junxing had reimagined these through adorable animated scenes. Now came the biggest gift he had prepared for Lin Shi. After blindfolding her, he stepped outside. Their classmates gradually guided her to her seat. The scene perfectly mirrored the beautiful days of high school, and everyone present was there to witness Lin Shi's happiest moment. From the doorway, Junxing, dressed in his school uniform and holding a bouquet, asked Lin Shi if she was happy being by his side. Her answer, of course, was yes. Junxing then knelt on one knee and proposed, surrounded by the blessings of all their old classmates. Afterwards, everyone went out to share a meal together. Even friends who had long since gone, like Lin Shi, returned. That day was truly extraordinary for Lin Shi. Not long after came the most important day of her life, her wedding, with Junxing. All their closest family and friends were there to celebrate. Qin Kai, as flamboyant as ever, was present, but even acting as the best man, he could not take away the bride. On their wedding night, the bride and groom ran away together. When their friends arrived, they were already far gone, leaving behind only a note and some fruit. Meanwhile, the newlyweds were on a camping trip, making this moment even more special. The car brought back memories for Lin Shi of their noisy friends sitting in the back seats long ago. Now the atmosphere was quietly serene. Upon arriving, the two of them watched the sunrise together, and later they gazed at the stars. Lin Shi suddenly remembered something she hadn't done yet. Junxing, still excited, asked what it was. It turned out to be about dividing the household chores. Naturally, Junxing took on the full load. The newlywed couple spent every day together. They had just talked about soon having a daughter, and before they knew it, their family welcomed a cheerful little child. Their life had become truly fulfilling. Their first love, which began in high school, had finally blossomed and borne sweet fruit. The film comes to an end here. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye, and see you next time.